This is Wabash Carnegie Public Library Oral History Program interviewing B.W. Maple at his home, 1359 Jones Street, Wabash, Indiana, Wednesday afternoon, June 27th, 1973. Mr. Maple, I think the first question I'm going to ask you today is, first of all, what's your full name?
Burr Walter Maple.
And where were you born?
I was born in Swayzee in Grant County.
And what's the date?
1889.
The birthday, day and the month?
19th day of August.
And that makes you how old today?
I'm 83 past, soon be 84. 2-1.
What, do you remember your mother's maiden name, Mr. Maple?
Laurie Ellen Maple.
And what did your father do?
Well, he was in the tavern business when Mother died, and then he just worked around and built fence after she died, before he died.
Had he ever farmed or anything around Swayzee?
Yes, he farmed when I was born, 1 mile north of Swayzee, in the first farmhouse east. That's where I was born.
Did you remember your grandparents when you were a little boy?
Yes, sir.
And
Meredith M. Maple.
And what did they do?
Farmed till he died.
Were any of the family relatives or anything, were they Civil War veterans or anything, do you remember?
Yes, sir. Granddad Maple told me he bought out in the Civil War to keep him going.
Of what religious background were they?
Well, they were Methodists, all I can remember.
Okay, let's test. What is the earliest thing that you remember as a little boy?
Little boy, I was 2 years old, and my mother took me to my great-grandfather Brian's, and they were moving a building to my grandfather's farm, and they were moving the old-fashioned with the horse and the winch, and there was a pulling just a little piece at a time. I can remember that. I never will forget it.
Is that building still standing down there?
Yes, it's 2 miles, 2 miles south of Swayzee and a mile west, and a half a mile south. And I think it's still there. It was an old schoolhouse building before they built the brick schoolhouse, and that Granddad bought it and moved it down there.
Did you go to school there then?
Yes, I walked. I wore felt boots, and I stayed with my Uncle Charlie Bryant there after Mother died. My mother died when I was 11 years old, and I was an orphan. And I wore felt boots to school, and I took the overshoes off, and I walked there about a mile in the snow to go to school there.
Was this a one-room school?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember your teacher?
No, I don't. She was a good teacher, and she walked also close there. She was a good teacher. I remember that. The last schooling I had was in the 7th grade there. I never had any education after that.
Yeah. Why did you leave school?
Well, I had no chance. I was an orphan, and I was working. I made my way after I was 11 years old with my 2 hands and around, and my Aunt Alice Bryant made my underwear over my uncle's, and that's the way I lived and made what I got today with my 2 hands and raised my own family.
Yeah. Did you have any brothers and sisters?
I had 1 sister and 1 brother. My brother I worked the rest in Swayzee. I worked there 8 years before I was married and after I was married. And my brother came in, I was cooking on April Fool Day, and come in, I got him a home out to West Pence's. He's an orphan. He didn't have no home. My cousin, I got him Elijah Hawkins, they worked him to death. And he's a big, strong boy, and he was in his 15s years old, and he come in the side door, I'll never forget, and talked to me, and I was busy, and he went out. An old gal, we called him Smokey here, he died here at home, And he come in and he said, Jack, said, Lomi just got killed. I said, April Fool, you can't fool me. I said, I'm busy cooking hamburgers. And he said, no, Jack, he went to cry, and he said, Lomi just got killed on the railroad. And I just tucked up my apron and run down there, and there was one leg cut off, and his foot cut off, and the groin, and I started to pick him up, and I said, pick the boy up, and they took him down Doc Hawkins' office, and he died right now. This lower boy hopped face, and they was going to Sims and get water, and then they dragged back Swayzee in the CINE. They had to stop. And Lomi grabbed to the shadow, my brother, and that was the last of him. And I had a sister, Maud, she married her husband. They owned the bake shop and restaurant, and I worked there then when my brother got killed. And her name was Maud, and she was a year and a half younger than I.
Is she still living?
No, gosh. She died, I forget how many years ago, but my wife and I went to Marion, and they called us, and my grandson, Joe Mullins, or nephew Joe Mullins, was in Florida. We called him, and he was on a visit down there, and he come right home next day, drove home, and she died that day. And my wife and I took care of her, and they took my brother-in-law. He had a heart attack. He was the baker, the one that was at Swayzee, when I worked there for him. And I worked in every restaurant in Swayzee. I cooked for all of them. But they took a Denzel, he's an oxygen tent. They took him that day. My wife and I went up there to the hospital. Well, then Sis was dead, and Joe got home. We stayed there. And they took Joe, or Sis, she wasn't dead yet, but they took her into Congress and got her in a nursing home. And the next Saturday, Joe come up to Marion and got his dad. He lives down here by Galveston. And he took Joe went up and got his dad, and went by and said, Dad, I better not go in and see Sis. Said she just been moved here. And Joe took my brother-in-law, his dad, home, and an hour and a half or two they called, and Sis died at Congress in a nursing home. And 1 week from that day, Joe went in. We were watching the ball games, the football game, and my niece, Joe's wife, asked, he said, Dad, don't you want something? Always said he might eat a sandwich. She took a sandwich in, and he was dead. 1 week from the day my sister died, he died. And that was that on my relation.
Yeah. When would this have been? Several years ago, before World War II, or after World War II?
Well, let's see. We lived in Somerset, and it's been I forget the date.
No, that's not important. We can find that later.
Well, I could find it if
we can find it later. Let me ask you, what was it like in a little town in Indiana back when you were a kid growing up as an orphan boy? What did you do for recreation and so forth?
Well, we played ball. After mother died, father and I, we bounced back into the saloon. I was raised in hell, if you want to know. Mm-hmm. My father had no respect for mother. She died, she's 9 years old. She gave birth to the fourth child. She said they sent to Swayzee and got me and my sister and my brother, and he was very little, and night she died, and she said, she gave birth that night, and she said, now be good, children. She said, I'll be there in a day or two. And she died 2 days after. I'll never forget it. She was a good mother. Dad, I don't know what to say. I just said that I was raised in hell after she died. Yeah. And I've had a tough life, but I've not lived in heaven. But I worked like the devil all my life, and I've made a home and raised 6 children. I've tried to do halfway what's right. But I don't know, those days come back to me. I never forget them.
Are they pleasant days or unpleasant days?
Both.
Both, yeah.
50-50.
Yeah.
That's all I could say.
Yeah. What was it like living with your dad then when he owned the saloon there at Swayzee?
Yes.
Yeah.
I worked in the factory when I was 11 years old at night and carried over bottles, a glass factory, Mascalettes. They had 2 glass factories in Syrup. And Swayzee had the food jars and the rest in. I stuck up in hell molds and worked out every night for 50 cents a night to make my way to what schooling I got.
Yeah.
And that's the way I got it.
Did you have any recreation in those days? Did you play baseball or shoot marbles? Or?
And I don't know. My mother wanted to make a preacher out of me. The kids fought me, and I didn't get out and play with them. I was never out and had the privilege other young kids did.
Uh-huh. Did you have a horse?
No, I had nothing.
Yeah.
Not even a bicycle.
Yeah. Did you have enough clothes and?
Yes.
Enough to eat?
Yes, we batched. I cooked when I was 11 years old. I had bats in the back end of the tavern.
Yeah.
Oh, it was tough. Yeah. Those glass doors come in there. I would play cards. I would play pool. When I was a kid, they had a pool room. I'd play with them glass doors. They'd come in there. They wanted to play with Dad, and he'd say, well, play with the kid. No, they say, hell no. Kid's tougher than you are. Yeah. I'm a pretty good pool player today.
Yeah. How old was Dad then when he died?
He was 67 years old.
Oh, he lived then to see you grow up to be a man.
Oh, yeah. He died in Swayzee. He batched up over the hardware store, and he went down to the filling station. Lawrence Packard, my cousin, on the filling station. He'd go down every morning for use his restrooms, and Lawrence Packard told me he come in that morning to go to the filling station. It was already open. My dad come up there at the corner by the lumber yard. He said, I seen him back up and back to the telephone pole, and he slid down, and he had an old Model T coupe. He said, I got out, Jack, and Jack's my nickname, and they always called me that. And he got out and took his cushion and laid Dad down, and they called the doctor down there, and he's dead, liver trouble. Yeah. Well, he died pretty sudden.
When you grew up to be a young adult, then what'd you do after? Well, say when you got up in your late teens. Then.
So I worked on the farm. I worked for Boyd Ladd. He carried milk, Swayzee's horses. I worked on the farm for 50 cents a day on my board. Mm-hmm. I always had a job. I worked through 2 threshing rings every year. I was always good enough with horses and a good worker. And I never had no trouble getting jobs. I'd go up and they'd be wanting hands, and they wouldn't go out and work. I always got a job. Yeah. I worked whenever I had a chance.
What was it like working with horses on the farm in those days?
It was wonderful. I was the best. I loved horses. I still do. I got ponies over now. I'm breaking for the canal days. Uh-huh. Never been broke. They look like 2 peas. You can't tell them one part over one head. And I've got them just for eating out of my hands and everything. And I'm going to drive them in the canal days and haul the varsity squad. They said they'd ride.
Good. What did you have any particular favorites among your horses? Do you remember as you look back now?
I always broke them to suit me. I could take one out of the barn, the other was following. I had them broke to come up to his place on the side of the tongue. They always mind me. I loved horses. Yeah. I was as good as the average or better, I think.
What did Swayzee itself, what did the city look like in those days? Were the streets paved?
Say, I seen them brick. The first streets was there. All Hood had a black team, was the greatest spelling team in history, and he rooted all that whole street up. I remember seeing him lay the brick. The first streets in Swayzee was brick. Mm-hmm. That's been a good while ago.
Yes, it has.
And they just worked there. They bricked the main part of town with the streets there.
Yeah. Did a young lady come into your life then?
No.
When did this happen?
Well, this happened in 1912.
And
we got intimate.
Yeah. How did you meet her?
Well, I met her through basketball and sportsmanship.
What was her maiden name?
Flossie G. Sanders, Greentown, Indiana.
Yeah. Now, how did you meet her?
Well, now in a bunch at a ball game and a party down there in Greentown.
You'd been over there to see a basketball game?
No, we was out there at an ice cream social. A bunch of us went. And I met her.
Yeah. When did you develop this interest in basketball?
Well, I think it's the best I can remember. I never wrote no dates down, but in 1907 at Greens Fork, Indiana. I was 15 years old and went down there to work with my cousin on the farm that winter. He said, well, Pets, heave in. You're young. I was just 15. He said, would you break some broncos? I said, yes. And that was Saturday. I was on a train. He met me. Monday we went and they bought 4. Well, I went to break them. Well, I drove to Greens Fork and we ditched all winter that hard pan out, 2 foot deep, and way over my head and picked it out. I worked every day like a nigger. But every night I'd start one of these broncos and I dived into Greens Fork. Well, they called me the Bronco Buster. Well, we loafed at the drugstore there, Maddox Drugstore. Well, I keep going in there, and they organized in 1906. They talked about basketball. I never had seen a ball game in my life before. But we played the first game in 1907, and the first of the year, up over Maddox Drugstore. He gave them 12 feet back there and 3 foot to stand. They put a chicken netting up there and had a gate to the west end, and the subs would stay in there. And they played there, and they didn't know what a referee was, and they'd call some businessman to referee the game. It was really football and basketball. But we had lots of sports, and we won from all the games. Well, Maddox finally, he lived up over there, and his wife, he had the half of the building, the drugstore. He built a petition cross there, and to live there, and then let us have that. Well, we went to Hagerstown and played basketball. And I had this buckboard and breaking this Bronco. I hauled 3 pairs, 14 below zero, 16 mile, wrapped them up in my horse blankets. And these 2 stone buggies went and took what player I didn't, and he took the fans. That's all they had. Well, I remember that well, and we didn't lose very many games. We had a wonderful team. But it was just like football. And the players come there, they'd get pretty good blood off that chicken net all the time, but our players played with long sleeves to protect their arm. Oh, I'll never forget. And we went a lot of places. I'd drive them and take my Bronco and then that old buckboard.
Do you remember the ball players on that team?
John something that was center. He worked in the drugstore. He was a Catholic. He was an awful ball player. He's pretty 7 feet tall. And if they'd thrown to him, he made them. We never had ever lost a game.
Yeah. Were these high school boys? Or?
No, they were just citizens.
Yeah.
They were going to high school, but that was when independent organized. See, that's the first time I've ever seen any basketball.
So you've really been following basketball 65 years?
66.
66 years.
We're 67 after my birthday in 2 months now. So less than 2 months, I'll be 84.
Yeah. What other teams organized down around that area, and what happened?
Well, I worked up that winter, that summer, from my cousin. I helped put the crops out, and that fall I come back home to Swayzee. Well, I talked about basketball at Swayzee. In 1907, in the fall, they organized after I come back home. They knew me well. I was a citizen. I went back there and went to work in a restaurant after I come back there. And they organized, they played in the old opera house and moved the seats all out, and we had to stand up on the stage to watch them play. Well, they played a couple of years, and they got pretty tough there. We got to go in and horse and buggies and go away and play congas around when after they organized. And I remember well then, about 2 years after, high school was organized, to the best of my knowledge, in 1909. And they played outside. Mm-hmm. Till it got cold, and they played up there in the opera house. And in a couple of years, we didn't follow basketball in high school then like we did independent. But in a couple of years, we got turned over and followed to high school. We had an awful good high school team. Well, they got good enough. We took up a collection and we sent them to Bloomington. Bloomington's the first place that ever had a gym. Mm-hmm. And we sent them there on the train, Glenn Blatt, our center, and we had two of the best fighters ever I've seen play in Indiana today. That was Lloyd Morton and Leo Davis, and they was really tough, and Glenn was our center. He was my cousin. Well, he's sick, and we lost on him. I looked him back. It wasn't, and it was 1911 or 12. I'll say it was 12. They organized then. Our team was so good, and 4 of the citizens went on the note. They built the first gym ever I've seen in Indiana outside the building. I think it was the first one. Judge Black and Henry Muni and Arthur Fry and Red Lyons went on the note for $850. And they built that gym and they donated it in 1912. They went there nights, they worked, and they all worked, and they built that. And got it done in time. In 1913, we played our first game. Well, I brought my wife up there. She wasn't my wife then, but I brought her up there, and that gym was so full, people come to see it. They stood behind the goals and threw out the lines, and they paid for that gym a quarter admission, and it didn't count the county nothing. Mm-hmm. And these 4 guys backed it, and they paid it out. Now, that was a pretty good thing. Well, I all the players, all our boys, with an old 13 model and side curtain, we went down on 31 and played ball. We never hardly lost a game. Mm-hmm. I hauled them those lights, those Presto lights, and I had batteries in there to start that, and it was pretty darn cold. Uh-huh. And I held them players, the little side curtains are flopping.
Where would you go to play on 31? Down Kokomo in that area?
No, it was out in, way out this south of Kokomo, down some other place. They played in an old Walter House or something. Mm-hmm. I remember that. I forget the name of the town now. Yeah. But we played down there, we beat them. And, I don't know. And then I hauled them later in 1970, I got to move forward and I hauled them down there again. They played. And I took a brick and put it on the right hand wheel and jacked that up. And I was 17 on the magnet and cranked the devil out and started. And then I ran in and jerked the lever. And old John A. Peterson had 800 acres of ground there. And Cecil said it took him 3 days to sess him, and he was down there. And he was a rich old cuss. And I had all him back, and he had one to play. I had 6, I think, all back. And I hauled the players ever since, and I hauled them at the goal. And, I don't know. I've followed basketball ever since.
What were you doing for a living then? Well, 1916, 1917.
Working in the restaurants or Swayzee.
Still working in the restaurant?
Yeah, and I got married in March in the flood, 1913. Mm-hmm. And I still stayed there and worked in the restaurant. I bought my furniture of old P.L. Mullins for $450, and I was making $1 a day working in the restaurants. Got up at 8 o'clock, and I did all the cooking there at Swayzee. Frank Brown had the big horse sale, or big sale there, buggy sale, and the Negroes would come weaving and buy them buggies. I cooked up there, and I'd make as high as 75 pies on Saturday, and then maybe 25 or 30 soft pies, and serve 100 dinners there, a quarter of dinner. I served all that there in them days and worked like the devil for $1 a day. And I'd mop out at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'd mop all that linoleum off. That's where I cleaned up.
Who owned the restaurant?
Wade Long.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was no relative, or?
No, nothing.
Yeah. He
gave me $1 a day, and I smoked. He said, "Well, you smoke too much," and I had to buy a box of King Edwards. They cost 3 cents a piece, and I smoked my own cigars.
Were you starting your family then? Did you start your family?
Yes. My family, we lived there in Swayzee in the East End. Yeah. My wife stayed there, and she got pregnant on her first child there, and I still worked in the restaurant. Mm-hmm.
Did you make ends meet okay?
Yes, made my payments and paid my furniture on $1 a day. Uh-huh. You wouldn't go very far now.
No. And you were still following basketball all this time?
Oh, my God, yes. I never missed a game. My wife didn't go then. She got pregnant.
Yeah. What was the difference in the basketball of that day as compared to 1973?
Well, there was lots of difference. The rules was much more different and strict today than there was then. Mm-hmm. And thought everything go. Mm-hmm. Well, now just like I left there and I come to Wabash County in 1924. When I was close, I followed LeGros. Mm-hmm. Oh, my father, they had one arm. He was the coach. He was a good coach, and they had a good team, and I followed them all the time. Mm-hmm. Well, I had lots of friends. They all knew me. Mm-hmm. Well, then I finally, after that, I wound up in Somerset and followed them there. I lived there 39 years.
How did you happen to come to LeGros from Swayzee?
Well, I owned a farm out there, Urbana, Spikerville.
Mm-hmm. You rented a farm?
Yeah. And that's when I quit the restaurant and went to farming. Yeah. See?
How were the LeGros basketball teams in those days?
Well, they were good. My father was a good coach. They had good teams. We won, I'd say 65, 75% of the games with him.
And then you went down to Somerset to farm some more?
No, I went in the trucking business at Le Fountain first. Uh-huh. I bought an old truck. Well, then I went out here on the Tree Road first, and I lived there after I left up there, I guess. And then I went into the fountain. Old Doc Schuster wanted me to come over and live in his house and truck for him. So I bought an old truck and went to trucking there 2 years at the fountain. I was only 37 years at the fountain. I trucked 39 years. I trucked for old Doc, and he and I couldn't get along. And Prince Packer and I couldn't get along. And so I finally went to the fountain, and I made a business there. Mm-hmm. Duff had the stockyards, and I put him out of business, and the farmer stayed with me. I stayed there till they damned me out, or I'd have been there yet, I suppose.
Yeah. What year was that?
Well...
During the Depression or after?
No, that was 11, 12 years ago, and they damned me out. I've been here 11 years last February. Right. Be about 12 years ago, they damned us out of Somerset.
Yeah, they took your property to build the Mississippi.
Yeah, took it and run us out. And so I come here and I worked for producers in the Amboy then for a year and better, as in the stock business. Worked there and drove back and forth from here. Then I come back here and went out to the driving. I worked there, started the 6th year out there, and here I am.
What would you say the most amazing thing, invention or discovery in your lifetime? What would you have to say it is?
Well, raising a family and going ahead to front on nothing, and I made a reputation. I had friends and I had backing. I don't know what else to be.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking more in terms of telephone, automobile, television. Which one of those impressed you most, or made the biggest impression on you?
Well, we got our first television in Somerset when we got our Social Security. I didn't take Social Security when I was 65. I wasn't 66. My daughter, oldest daughter, Margaret, she lives at North Webster now. She said she'd get it. And my son-in-law, he was quite a smart guy, and he said she wouldn't get nothing. Well, she got me. And then my wife and I got our first television off a guy at Converse. We had to get an awful big antenna at Somerset. It cost me $85. It cost me over $500 my first television set. Well, I've got to watch it on all our errors. We got about $900 back paid by not taking it in 65. And I'd say, well, television's always been my sport, most next to basketball.
Yeah. During the Depression, did you always work during the Depression?
Yes, sir, and I made it. And I made it and supported my family. I sent my daughter, Bernice Vitak, in Cincinnati to college. I bought her $185 off of Ted Halley, and I trucked horses to Kentucky for him every week. And when I bought my property at Somerset, she was tough, but I would go out on Thursday and go to Amboy and make $17, and I could keep my family all week of trucking. The farmer stayed with me.
Yeah.
And I took it, and what did I say? And 17. But I took, and then I bought my first property. I checked on Ted Halley for a year, and I'd give him a third, and I'd take a third. Every month he'd come in, we'd saddle up. And I had all horses every week to Kentucky for him. I loaded the horses down there. And I owed him $185, and I was trucking it out. And come in here when the Citizen Bank went under, and that the guy that had the insurance to home loan, he said, I said something about buying that old home out there at Somerset. And he said, well, I'll take $50 down, he said. Now, I was in depression. And he said, you can pay $10 a month. And I said, I may close this in 60 days or 30 days, and may go a year. Mm-hmm. But I'll sell it. I said, all right. And Ted's wife was funny. And I said, you don't need to. You go give me a separate checking account, Conrad. And I said, no, you don't need to. Bill Macy there was a good friend. He said, Jack, I got some money. And he gave me 2 of these signed checks. And the hogs was cheap, 2 cents. And I'd buy them, make a little money, and give Bill a third profit. Well, I had a signed check on him. Come in from the sailboat out here after it started. And went around. I can't think of his name. He was the insurance agent for the home loan. He had charge of that Citizen Bank, saving bank here when it went under. And I went around Ned and I got $50 and went around there and I signed up. And so the next morning, I didn't tell Bill I was going to write a check on him. Next morning, I drove out to Ted Halley's there, Conrad. I said, Ted, I got to have $50. We bought a home. Mm-hmm. Now, that's an impression. This is nothing but the truth. And Ted pulled his pocketbook out of his bib overall and they had me 50. Now, I said, you're never going to pay me another cent for that truck out. I made $235 in depression. And he gave me $50 more. I went in and Bill 50. I said, Bill, I wrote a check with 50 to pay him home. He said, well, you didn't need to, Jack. I didn't need. I said, I didn't ask you. And by God, I paid him back and never drawed a cent and still lived through depression and kept my family. Mm-hmm. And, that was a good deal to pay, $235. But I'm going to tell you, in 60 days, I had to pay that money. But I couldn't go back to Ted. I went to the loan company and borrowed that and paid that over, and I paid that off.
You were borrowing money every place then, weren't you?
You're down right away. But I don't owe them that.
Let me ask another question here, something that's rather interesting in Indiana.
Yeah?
During the 20s, there was a great resurgence in the Ku Klux Klan. Did you ever get associated with them?
No, but they tried. Yes and no. After come here in 1924.
Right. That'd be the time.
They come out there and a Ku Klux guy.
Where were you living then?
I was living on that old corner place, a mile north of Spikerville, and a mile and a half east back there. And this guy come out there, and I was coming in here. I wasn't doing right. And I was coming in a good deal to Johnny Joy's, and I was a gambling and went bad that year. And they told me if the Ku Klux would watch me, and they was going to burn me out. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the closest I had any deal dealing with the Ku Klux.
Yeah. Who was it that told you?
I can't remember his name. I knowed him. He's a tall guy, and he lived here in town. So he come out and told me.
They were going to burn you out because they didn't think you were living right?
That's right. I thought I'd run around and gamble up to Joy's pool.
Yeah. What did your wife say when you told her this?
Well, she didn't have much to say. I told her. And that was about it. Yeah. We had Adeline Kiefer. She was born out there. Old Doc Pearson came out there that night all night. It might not be interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
And all night, and I was a pretty good cook, and I butchered a hog, and Doc was up all night, and Rose Welch, Dan Welch's wife, was with my wife. She was still in there with her, and about 4 o'clock, knocked them out. I had tenderloin, and I had some old-fashioned salt, and a couple eggs, and I made him some biscuits, and I had some brown sugar syrup and coffee, and I said, Doc, you want some breakfast? He said, hell yes. He said, who got this? Said, I never missed none of them women. The other one was your wife. Yeah, I don't know. I said, I can cook a little. Hey, Doc said, oh, Doc Pearson was right over here. He said, my God, if I cook that way, my wife would make me cook all the time. I never forgot that.
Looking back over the years now, do you have any comments? Life has been good to you, or bad, or it's gone too fast or too slow, or?
Oh, I'd say average, both. You always get, when you're an orphan, you get the toughest end of life. Mm-hmm. No matter how good you try to live there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. My dad he was awful. I don't think he ever took a sober breath 2 years after Mother died.
Mm-hmm. But still, he lived to be 67.
Yeah?
He must have been pretty tough.
Well, he was tough. Yeah. He built a fence in Swayzee before he died. Yeah.
The children are all raised now, and when did Mrs. Maple pass on?
Well, soon be 5 years ago. Yeah. We've been here 11 years last February.
Yeah. What do you do with your free time now?
Well, I go to town by the afternoon, play euchre, or watch ball game now when it's on. I go up to card room. I love to play cards. I entertain these old guys, Harry Snarl and Harry Lehman's birthday's on the 19th of August, same as mine. There's been a meeting now. Started on mine, and then we go to Jim that drives to the city. I don't know what his last name is. Then we go to Harry Lehman's, and then we come to Saturday night week. We went to Harry Snarl. We try about every 6 weeks on the 19th of August. And coming here, they're going to play euchre. We play euchre and have a party, and little Hattie Cole and Bob Swagger, and I baked a pumpkin pie and took over to Harry's the other night when they was over there. And we just play euchre, change partners, and have a little sport. Every 3 games we change partners, and we have a Dutch lunch, and we enjoy ourselves.
You enjoy a bottle of beer now and then?
Well, we drink canned beer.
Canned beer.
Yeah, we take 6 cans when we go. Hell, we're 21 all of us.
Yeah.
I'm 72, and I'll be 84 next birthday.
Did you still enjoy the high school basketball games, don't you?
More than ever. And Wabash has treated me better than ever Somerset or any place else did. Mm-hmm. I've got to go on with that. Yeah. You know, Mr. Coleman come to me after the dance out of Somerset. I have 2 children graduated out here. There's my grandson up there got killed in the service, Randy Powell, and Jane Ann Kiefer, my first grandchild, come on my birthday. She's my first grandchild. My first great grandchild come on my birthday. She was my first grandchild, produced me, and they 2 graduated out there 2 years. Mm-hmm. Well, Southwood never did have a coach that we did. I'll say at Somerset, 2 of the best coaches ever I've seen in history. I don't care who they are. 2 of them, Oral Steidel was a good one at La Fountain. He was a good coach. But John Hubbard, Bowser, died in Peru up there and worked in the courthouse. But he was one of as good a coaches ever I went to forward, and so was John Hubbard. Yeah. Well, then, the next year after he left, Ray Sumter went to coach. Well, he put my boy on forward, Dickie Maple is Manchester, and he put Bob Sutton guard. Well, Bob was short. Dickie would make one. Well, then Bob, the guard make over. So next game I went to, I said to Ray, why the devil don't you put Dickie back there on guard and put Sutton up there on forward? His boy, Stuffy Suffer, would always have to jump and he'd shoot, so would Bob, they're short. He put him up there and we went to winning. Mm-hmm. He changed and listened to me. Mm-hmm. Well, I went to La Fountain there. We always beat La Fountain. I went to the Fountain ball game. I'll tell you one here quick. and Bud Little was the principal. And Steiner was the coach. And I bet old J.I. Thomas $1 we'd beat them on their floor. and Bud Little said, "Now, Jack, you ain't going to pay nothing to get in here if you keep your mouth shut. But if you holler once, it's going to cost you double." He said, when I went out, he said, "I watch you all the time. We got about even. I was going to holler and lose $1." Well, Bud said, "You didn't know I watched you, but I won the $1." Oh, I'll never get that. Well, my daughter, she finished graduating, and the fountain after we moved Somerset, stayed there on Hill, the Undertaker down there. And she'd holler for the fountain, and I'd drown her and holler for Somerset. Oh, it was funny. But Bud Little, they talked about him letting me in, you know, out there when them girls gave me the ride up when they went to my daughter's.
Who would you say is the outstanding high school basketball player you've ever seen around here?
Well, I think that would be hard to beat. I'd pick another that's next to him since I've been here, and that would be Holly. He's one of the best dribblers ever I've seen on the floor. Those two of the best I'd have to pick now. We had some other good ball players. Mm-hmm. And who was that the next year followed Epley? He was a high point boy. But Epley was pretty tough. Now, we got beat games we shouldn't have got beat with Epley.
Do you remember any outstanding game over all these 65 years? Do you remember anything?
Stuffy, Sumter. We beat Wabash out here at the section, and I'll say 2 games out of here. Those Sawyer boys was as good as we ever had, and Stuffy Sumter was the best. Mm-hmm. He was one of the best. We played out here, and I think we were 29 and Wabash was 30. And 20 seconds to go. He took out time over Hubbard, and he was captain. And he really knew as much as Hubbard did, I thought. Mm-hmm. And he told what's his name, when they said that ball in, to give it to him, and he'd start up there and he'd get a foul. And he never missed a foul pitch through that section. Stuffy Sumter never that year would beat Wabash up here. Mm-hmm. And he stood up there and made both of them. Well, 2 years before that, Vernon Sawyer wore glasses in school and studying, and the same thing happened. Wabash guard jumped on and got a foul. We were 1 point behind. Vernon Sawyer stood there and everybody hollered, and he made them 2 foul pitches, and we beat Wabash that year. Now, that was a basketball that's interesting.
Yeah, that's right. Do you enjoy professional on television?
Not too much. I watch I'd rather have my regular programs. I don't know none of them. Mm-hmm. That's why I enjoy here. I've been out here, and Mayor treated me good. He gave me a key to the city. Mm-hmm. You see my flag?
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
Well, I said, trim and gold, how would you beat that?
Yeah, that's right. So you'd say it's been a pretty comfortable life here in Wabash in the last 11 years?
I've enjoyed this 11 years in basketball and all, although my wife's gone, and I worked like a devil and made some money. Mm-hmm. I used to drive it. Mm-hmm. I told Joe I was going to quit. I was 81, and couldn't make 11, and I lay down and die. Joe didn't want me to go. He wouldn't take the keys. So on Saturday, I said, Joe, I'm quitting now. And he said, get me somebody. I got him a kid across there to help me. Well, I fell out there, and the grandson helped me out there once, and my leg gave away mopping. And that Kiefer boy there picked me up in there. He hadn't been there, and didn't have no cane. The floor was wet. I couldn't have nothing to pull up. And I said, Joe, I'm quitting this Saturday. And I did, and Joe took his stroke the next week after I quit. Yeah. He's still out here at the nursing home.
Have you seen him?
No, he don't know nobody. Mm-hmm. He looks at you, but they say he can't talk or nothing. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I could have stayed another year, I reckon, but I worked out there 2 years after my wife died. I got 10 and a half a day, and I give them kids $1 a piece, pick up the trash. I'd have to drive the truck and do all the work and mop out and clean up. It's a mess out there. Those ladies' rooms are twice as bad as the men's restrooms. I tell her that to get it over there. I never seen such messes as they were.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it, but anybody will tell you it's ever been a janitor.
Yeah.
But Joe did treat me nice. He raised me every year. I wouldn't work.
Do you enjoy your grandchildren?
Yeah, they don't bother me. There ain't been one of them to call me this week. I got 3 children living here. They don't bother me. I don't bother them. I got my ponies over. I go feed them twice a day, and I'm playing with them. I got a bad leg, maybe a heart too. I'm going to drive in the canal today.
Yeah. Well, good. We'll look for you then.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Well, good. Mr. Maple, I want to thank you, and
well, that's about all I could tell you. Anyway.
Well, we'll type this, and be a copy of it in the Wabash Library, and there'll be a copy in the State Library. So if grandchildren looking for Grandpa someday, they'll know where to find you.
Well, I used to hold the girl, old Fred Freshwater. He'd ride with me. I'd hold his hand. I'd say, Grandpa, there's a curve up there. I said, oh, we'll make it. Them old side curtains are flopping. I followed them all.
Yeah. Good.
Then I hear the band we played, my son-in-law nowadays, Harold Pell, had milk out. We had them tied ahead. I said, hold that ball, Harold, hold that ball. And he threw it. And we had Weitzel out here playing on the team, and he was center. Guys, they beat us, and if he'd listened to me, we'd have beat him.
Yeah. Where'd you ever get this nickname of Pop? Who gave that to you?
Grandpa, they called me out here, nicknamed me.
They call you Grandpa?
Yeah, Grandpa. All of them called me Grandpa and meet me now.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, they call me Grandpa.
Got it.
I was named Jack because my dad said I ate like my Uncle Andy Palmer when I was a kid as a hog. He ate like a hog. He'd take about a half. Hey, you got time to eat a nice piece of pumpkin pie?
Yes, sir, you do. Listen, I'm going to close this interview. George Dingledie interviewing.